G-bet with a 3-bet to $12,000.
All right, guys, so I was making another Real Poker Talk video about what do you do when your family and your friends think that you're a massive degenerate, but I really want to get this hand up because it features recent podcast guests Matt Berkey and a friend of mine who's a regular on the Live at the Bike live streams and also guest on my Out of Line at the Bike show, and a guy that's been around the poker world for a long time, Garrett Adelstein, and Garrett booked a $600,000 win earlier this week. Now, this hand that took place, this isn't going to be the most strategic, in-depth hand. Even though we are wearing the Nolan Hold'em hat right now, this hand sort of is going to play itself for the most part. But they start the hand off. I think they're about $240-some thousand deep, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. And this really does tie in with a lot of recent sort of things I've talked about in videos about one hand defining your session. Sometimes you're just going to end up losing the pot and kind of wanting to drive off the bridge, because if I'm in this situation and I'm Matt Berkey and I got kings versus aces, I'm going to want to drive off the bridge. So let's take a look at the hand and let's get to let's see what happens here.
Have air. Berkey's got to be feeling pretty good about his hand. A 5-bet to $62,000. You can see all those cranberries underneath Berkey. He is reloaded for a lot of chips.
Now I want you guys to pay attention to players' faces as this hand goes on, and you can see that they're going to fall more and more asleep because of how much tanking ends up taking place, mainly by Garrett, because Garrett loves taking a long time. But just watch Ben's face, watch Scott's face, and watch Bob's face.
Got the kings. Nobody's shuffling chips. It's quiet. It's still. Everyone knows this is a major moment. Cool. And a flat from the kings. 125,000 in the middle. Oh my. What a hand. Berkey's flopped a king. I'd say he's feeling okay right now. How will Garrett proceed? Garrett's going to check his aces. Berkey checks right back.
All right, guys, so we followed the hand up until this point. So Garrett was in the straddle. Matt Berkey made a raise. Garrett 3-bets. Matt 4-bet. Garrett 5-bet pre-flop. And then Matt Berkey just calls. Flop comes down king 7-5. Matt Berkey flops the top set. Garrett decides to check, and Matt checks back pretty quickly. And we're going to see a turn where the fireworks continue.
Oh, my God. Are you kidding me? This is as cold as it gets. His world has been turned upside down on the turn. And unless he finds a case king, he's about to have $167,000 less. G-Man's day is just looking good, large and in charge, and he's going to bet. All this time, and finally we have a bet on the turn. 35,000 into 125, and how can you blame him? Nothing but the nuts. Berkey's still got to be feeling really good with his hand. Just going to call.
All right, turn comes down. It's the ace of hearts. Dynamite. Set over set takes place. They still have, what, about $160,000 left. Garrett thinks for a bit, decides to go with the $35,000 bet. Very, very small bet. And then Matt's got a decision. Does he raise or does he call? You know, kind of just looking at this hand, I think when you're in Garrett's spot, you say, I've got pocket aces. I have top set. My opponent check back the flop. I don't think he has a set of kings. It looks like maybe he's got ace king. You know, obviously we block the ace queen. We block ace jack, a hand like that. Would he decide to 4-bet that hand all the time? You know, we're not very sure. But it kind of looks to me like his hand might be something like queen, something like jacks. You know, for the most part. I guess in Garrett's spot now it's just we pray that we're going to get some value. I think sometimes spots come down where, you know, we have such a strong hand and our opponent's hand looks so weak that we sort of just bet and we pray that our hay has something. And, you know, this just happened to be the hand where he did have something. Matt decides to just call instead of raising the turn himself. I think that could be debated either way, but let's see the river as played.
There you have it. Nearly 200,000 in the middle, and Garrett Adelstein, top set of aces, with 132,000 behind. I have a feeling every single one is going right in the middle. What a cooler from Matt Berkey.
90,000.
90,000. 42.
Is Bob right? Is he sleeping right here when he does this? Or is he, I can't really tell. Is he sleeping? Honestly, I'm not sure. I think he's sleeping.
I highly doubt it. All in for Berkey. He's putting him in.
All right, so river comes down, 6 of clubs. Flush draw misses. The gut shot, if someone happened to have 8, 9 of hearts, something like that, does get there. And now Garrett has a decision. What's he going to bet? He decides to not bet his whole stack, 90,000. I think sometimes people do that, sort of make their hand look a little bit more bluffy. But, you know, not quite sure his reasoning. I'll probably ask him about that. And then Matt has a decision. Does he go all in, put Garrett all in rather for his last 42,000, or does he just call? He decides to go all in, and then Garrett gives him the slow roll. Take a look.
And Garrett is certainly not going to fold. Yeah, there it is. He's going to call. That's as cold as it gets, folks.
Should just call, I guess.
Berkey's declaring that should have just called. What a sick, sick pot. $460,000 pot.
So, as you can see, Garrett calls, wins the $460,000 pot. Matt talks about how he maybe should have just called that river bet instead of put them all in. I think that's very debatable. And I know we got a lot of very high stakes players out there in the chat that play these stakes regularly. What would you guys do in this situation? I mean, I feel like there's no way we don't really lose it all here. Obviously, the 5-bet pre-flop does signify a lot of strength, and when your opponent does check the flop and then bets that turn and bets that river, I mean, I don't think they got a hand like a queens or like a jacks. I mean, if they had a hand like even jack 10 or something like that with some sort of hand that was 5-bet bluffing potentially, they probably would decide to bet the flop. But I mean, things like this just happen. So now kind of takeaway is we don't want to let this hand define our session. But these hands really do define our session. Now Garrett has the momentum built up, and he decides, he keeps playing well. He keeps running well in some other spots. If you watch the session, he wins $600,000. Berkey ends up losing this hand and then ends up losing other hands. He ends up down a few $100,000. So essentially, this one hand was a pretty big swing in the session for both players, and this really helped to define the session. And now when you walk away, you see Berkey, you might say, well, Berkey's fucking shit. Berkey sucks. When in reality, if this board comes out king high and then comes out 3-3, well, now Berkey's up a few $100,000. Maybe things go differently from that point on. The momentum's on his side. Garrett's maybe a little bit tilted. And our whole entire viewpoint of how Berkey played this session and how Garrett played this session shifts completely. But this one hand happens. It defines the session kind of for both players. And yeah, man, so a very sick hand. Big shout out to Poker Go putting this on. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Much love. I got my Texas Hold'em hat on, and I'm ready to go play some Texas Hold'em. And by that, I mean I'm ready to get out of line. So much love, everybody. Take care. Adios, and peace out.